meeting, we are going to have concrete things that will be sent via the DG NIDA to the government in power. God bless you. While that one was going on, we had some people around us again. We have the president of ITSSP here, Otumba Peter Arogundade is here. The president of ITSSP, you are welcome, sir. We also have members of the National Executive Council of Nigerian Computer Society here. Dr. Charles Nyoku is here. You are welcome. That's the chairman of ethics. You are welcome, sir. And we also have chairman credentials around, Mrs. Orogun. You are welcome, ma'am. Bless you. We also have a strong lady from WAEC who is representing the head of the IT, Mrs. Atekoja. You are welcome, sir. All the fellows in the house, please, we welcome you. We appreciate you. You are welcome. Without missing word or wasting our time, I want to go on straight on to call on the chairman of today, the DG of NIDA, Mr. Kachevo Inoa, who is simply represented here by Dr. Lawa, to please give that opening remark. You are welcome, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Lawan from NIDA. I'm the head of software unit. I'm here on behalf of our DG, who is currently attending another important meeting and was not able to attend today's stakeholders meeting. And he sent his apology to all the organizing committees. Ladies and gentlemen, if you allow me, I have the brief written by our DG, Mr. Kashifu. If you allow me, I will read it on his behalf. May peace, mercy, and blessing be upon all of you. It gives me a greatest pleasure to see many like-minded people here to attend today's stakeholders meeting on nation cybersecurity challenges that we face here in Nigeria. I hope this will increase our public awareness on cybersecurity and bring us together for a closer collaboration on this very important subject. You may be aware that NIDA, or National Information Technology Development Agency, is saddled with the task of developing and regulating the IT sector of our country, backed by the NIDA Act of 2007. The agency is mandated to implement the Nigerian Information Technology Policy and coordinate general IT development and regulation in the country through the formation of standard policies, guidelines, frameworks, and to develop programs and other initiatives. NIDA's role is to ensure information technology enable every sector of our economy, create jobs through ICT innovation and entrepreneurship, and eventually bring about the kind of digital transformation that we see in most developed countries. So this is the hope and role of NIDA. So now it has been discussed by my colleague professor that cybersecurity issue is something that cannot be overemphasized. We have been witnessing a lot of attacks every day, and this is going to continue. And this is not only a Nigerian issue, it is actually a global issue. So one of the role of NIDA is to ensure that we have a framework as done by the NCS so that we can cater and find ways of reducing the impact of cyber threats. To achieve this, we first need to understand what risks, threats, and vulnerabilities currently exist in our country. I know that in Nigeria, most of the threats are related to financial fraud, credit card, ATM card, counterfeiting of ATM card, cloning of cards, scam, phishing attack, and so on. So we need to understand the kind of attack that we have in Nigeria. Secondly, we need to learn as much as possible from about the problem so that we can formulate a solid responses. Otherwise, if you delay, you'll be left behind. And this is actually what is happening. If you look at the example of virus, if virus start to propagate, if you don't handle it on time, then before you realize, it is going to be a huge damage. and it will cost you a lot of money. So this implies that we must develop and implement a comprehensive protection and response plan or policy in order to prevent or to minimize attacks. The policy should provide response guidelines that cover every phase of an attack in the fastest and most efficient manner. Finally, we need to intelligently deploy our selected countermeasures, because whenever you see an attack, you have to find a solution to the attack. And that implementation of the solution needs to be done in an intelligent way. Otherwise, you will be left with some other loopholes in which the cyber criminals will use to attack again. While there is no silver bullet to eliminate all attacks, as we know, the more solutions you provide and the more the attackers will try to find loopholes to penetrate into the system. So it's ongoing activity, as just mentioned by Prof. We should not just say that rely on one single meeting. This should be ongoing activity, and solutions need to be provided on a timely basis. So while there is no silver bullet to eliminate all threats and breaches, we at NIDA focuses on addressing attack during the most dangerous time. The costs associated with each individual attack are directly proportional to the amount of time that it takes an organization to approach the attack. And this is what I'm exactly saying. So that's the better we prefer to detect, protect, and take down attacks proactively, the more likely that the organization will be able to prevent or recover in case of disaster. By trying to nip the problem in the bud, an organization can greatly reduce the amount of time wasted and also the money due to protecting the impact of potential attack. Now, what we have at NIDA, we have what we call Computer Emergency Readiness and Response Team, CERRT. I know we are all aware of CERT, CERT. The reason why we add one more R is to differentiate between the CERT that we have in the country. The CERT that we have now in Nigeria is controlled by the Intelligence, Ministry of Defense. So their data are highly sensitive. They are not meant to be shared among other entities. So that's why we have our own, which is going to be like the backbone of all other CERTs in the MDAs. So one of the things that we have, the responsibility of the CERT in NIDA, we have 5 different strategic solutions. One is event management, which include like monitoring to ensure that, to see what is coming in. And we have incidents management, we have vulnerability management, we have knowledge sharing, and we have like this event awareness campaign. Now these 2 things like knowledge sharing is missing in the CERT NG, because it's mainly for the military, defense, DSS, security, and the like. So they don't intend to share their findings with the general public. But for us, our intention is to make sure that the publics are aware about the current threats and the incoming threats, so that we can share, we can find a better solutions. So one of the mandates is to train ISOs, information security officers, about the threats that we're currently facing in the country, and also to collaborate with all other MDAs in the security-related issues. So we have this as one of our mandates that we have to share, and we have to inform the public. So over the years, CERT has been able to aid the development of prerequisite capacities in cybersecurity tools and technology, build synergies between MDAs and other private entities in handling cybersecurity issues, and also assisting and empowering IT personnel from MDAs in achieving their own mandates and visions, and to improve security culture of citizens through security awareness campaign as we are doing now. So our DG wants to really apologize, as I said, and commend NCS for this important event. So let me use this opportunity to call on the NCS to put strategies, sustainable programs and plans to enhance the security or cybersecurity in Nigeria. So work well done. Finally, I wish to congratulate us, especially NCS, for witnessing this day, and I look forward to a fruitful and mutually beneficial relationship and collaboration for sustainable national development. So NCS are highly welcome to NIDA. Thank you very much for your attention. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for our DG, represented by Dr. Lawan. Whatever we say today cannot validate or invalidate the truth. But the truth is that all of us must fight cybersecurity attacks headlong for us to win the global phenomenon of cybersecurity attack. I wish all of us that are stakeholders will equally do our part and leave the rest to the incoming generations. Under this digital economy, all hands must be on deck. God bless you. A round of applause for him again. We are going to the nitty-gritty area where we'll discuss, where we present papers, where everybody comes up with his or her challenges in different institutions, individuals, government areas, private organizations, and let us also discuss with it. To start it all this morning, we have our lead presentation. From the program we have the lead presenter to be Prasanna K. Bori, the Chief Information Security Officer of Dangote Group, on the current international strategy for managing cybersecurity. Unavoidably is absent. He is presently indisposed. Right. He's sending another person who will represent him. That one is on the way coming. Right. But we also have some gurus in the house who can efficiently, diligently, articulately take in charge of that particular topic. I want to call on, let me say doctor, because this man is a guru in the IT industry, not only in the IT industry, but also in the security outfit of in this country. Somebody who is well known all over Nigeria, Africa, and the universe, in charge of IT security. I want to call on Mr. Akeem Ajijola to please come forward. Please, a round of applause for him. Badioye, a fellow of the Nigerian Computer Society, you are welcome, sir. Please stand up for recognition. You are welcome. To discuss that lead paper presentation, we have some people here who are gurus in their various organizations. Let me just call them forward. One of them is Mr. Ibrahim, NCC, to please come forward. Ibrahim of NCC. Please, a round of applause for him. We have CSP Kayode Emmanuel from the Office of the Inspector General of Police. Please come forward. Boglo AP. Adeoluwa Ogunwale of NIPS. Please come forward. Bolanle Omotosho. Data Recovery Specialist Limited. Then we have where's Ibrahim? Ibrahim, Kayode Emmanuel, Boglo AP, Bolanle Omotosho, Adeoluwa Ogunwale. 5 of them. In the absence of that, you want to give me one, or you want to be one? To moderate. Oh, Sheung Bangoye, please be there. Let me take my Latin Mathematical Center. Please come forward. Be a discussion here, please. To come. To moderate the people, I want to call on my professor, Professor Jimo Rashid. Please come forward to moderate. God bless you. Mr. Ajijola, we are waiting for you. Mr. Akim Ajijola is a global cybersecurity resource. He's ranked 13th in the 2018 IFSEC Global Cybersecurity Professionals, Influencers, and Thought Leaders list. He is currently the chairman, African Union Cybersecurity Expert Group, OSSEC, chair, Working Group of Cyber Incident Management and Critical Information Protection of Global Forum on Cyber Expertise. Listed on the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, roster of experts supporting the development of an online training courses in cyber diplomacy, Commissioner, Global Commission on the Stability of Cyberspace. Is a member Presidential Committee on the Development of the 2020 to 2025 National Program Plan, a member group of experts for the Nigerian Senate Committee on Cybersecurity and ICT. Here comes Mr. Akim Ajijola for that beautiful presentation. Over to you, sir. Please, a round of applause for him.
Thank you very much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me say a few words while they are figuring out how to get the PowerPoint going. First and foremost, thank you so very much for the honor of allowing me to share my thoughts with you this morning. The internet has reached a point where some level of regulation is required in order to ensure stability, in order to ensure the integrity, and in order to ensure the survivability of the platform. However, there are fine lines between suitable regulation, censorship, and abuse of digital rights. Due to the rapid ongoing changes in cyberspace, any legislation passed must focus on the appropriate empowerment of the regulator, existing or new, and not on the specific challenges that we see now. That said, the fundamentals behind the failures and challenges of technology are often human. And in fact, They include greed, lies, incompetence, ego. But we must now add new political aspects, such as state-funded cyber actors, extremism, and terrorist-motivated hackers. In addition, technology faces challenges like infrastructure deficit, costs, resistance to change. I'm sure we're all familiar with these issues. And we must therefore understand that the underlying issues of culture, education, and circumstances so that we can appreciate our weaknesses and endeavor to fix them. These are issues our society, especially its national and corporate leadership, must deal with to ensure short and long-term national and corporate competitive survivability and to ensure citizens' lives and livelihoods. Please let me know when the PowerPoint is ready and the clicker. For example, fake news and hate speech have been with us since the time of Cain and Abel. Yet today, technology has facilitated its unprecedented social impact and damage. Sadly, I believe this is only the beginning. However, as the challenges of cyberspace escalate, they impinge on the economic and digital stability and survival of the nation state and the well-being of its people. I believe that together, God willing, we will build sustainable bridges of honor and dignity between 200 million Nigerians, 1.3 billion Africans, and the rest of humanity, thereby making a positive difference. As we move forward, may I remind you that we must continually factor the future needs and aspirations of the underserved, the unconnected, and indeed those who are not yet born. And the reason is that they too want a stable, secure, and just digital society. But unlike us that are here to make a contribution, they are not able to make that contribution. Yet they must live with the precedents, the norms, and the consequences of what we set and agree on today. So we have a responsibility to the future generations. National and corporate leaders, as well as our citizens, must understand that everything has changed in the last few years. And what may have worked yesterday, and I've heard this already this morning, to mitigate threats can no longer be relied from today forward to secure national and corporate survivability. Strategic government and corporate decision makers need to start asking themselves, what are we missing? What are we not considering? What must we start implementing immediately? A strategic mindset change from cybersecurity focus to cyber survivability prioritization is imperative. Our nation, supported by the Nigerian Computer Society, must articulate Nigeria's cyberspace, cybersecurity, and things like artificial intelligence, philosophy, ethics, policy, and strategy. Because if you don't have those things, other things will not work. Ladies and gentlemen, leaders who take ownership and responsibility for their own and their stakeholders' destiny will find themselves acquiring a competitive advantage, not only today, but bequeathing such advantage throughout the 21st century. I am honored to be a member of the NCS and appreciate the efforts of Professor Sodia and his team, who have taken leadership on helping stakeholders in considering and implementing the requisite solutions to national security challenges. Once again, thank you for the honor of permitting me to share this message with you at the NCS Stakeholders Meeting on the nation's cybersecurity challenges here in Lagos. So I hope we are ready, ladies and gentlemen. You need to go to the first slide, and can I have my clicker, please? It's not working. But I don't think I want to be doing next. And nobody in the house has a clicker, please. What? Okay. Is it on? So, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, we'll do a bit of next. Okay. My apologies for that. So, can somebody focus? Hello? No, you're not focused. Uh-huh. Can we go to the first slide? Thank you. So, what is this about? Why is this important? And because of time, and I know that we have the discussants who need to say some valuable things, I'm not going to go into details of every slide. I have already shared the slide with the Secretariat. It's on their computer already. Anybody that wants it afterwards, please, you are more than free and welcome to secure it from them. So, all of this is about people. It's for people, it's about people, it's by people. Some of us, when we get into this technology thing, we get carried away with the technology, and we forget it's about flesh and blood, you and I. It does require some level of shared vision. We need to be going in the same direction. And as I alluded to earlier, we need to harmonize our philosophy, our ethics. Then we get into harmonizing our policies and strategies. One of the challenges you have is that globally, government is now trying to really get into the Cyber Act, particularly the Cybersecurity Act. Well, your challenge with government is that they don't really own the infrastructure. Most of the infrastructure is actually owned by the private sector. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, please understand that security, any type, cyber, analog, national, it starts with you and I. Our nation and its citizens need to understand the rules of the game. And that is one of the reasons that I was very anxious to come and speak here today. Because those rules of the game are being set globally. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm a Nigerian, but we are not there. We're not participating. I think when I was being introduced, it was mentioned that I'm the chairman of Working Group B of the Global Forum for Cyber Expertise. They are based in Holland. Nigeria doesn't come for our meetings. I have over 70 members. USA is there, Malaysia is there, Singapore, Microsoft, Cisco, all the usual suspects. Tunisia is there, Egypt is there, South Africa is there. We know this. So, we must, first of all, articulate what is our own best national interest. And then we need to act on it. Can we go to the next one? How many of us in this room recognize the lady on the screen? Mama Alakara, Mama Okpa, Mama Mekose. Have we patronized her before? Oh, thank you. So I'm not alone. Now, when this lady gets up, she needs to buy some firewood. What language does she use? Anybody? Pidgin vernacular. When she wants to buy the oil for frying, the ororo, what language does she use? Same. When she wants to, I don't know, buy the beans and grind them, what language? And also, how does she acquire them? She uses currency, cash. So, when she wants to sell to you and I, what language does she use? Native language. We speak to her in Pidgin or vernacular. Thank you. So one day, Mama Alakara is doing her business, and some young men, like my Oga here with his jacket, come. So there are two of them. One of them says, Mama, you know, I'm from the local government. We are helping to keep the place clean, blah, 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 blah. We need you to be formalized and pay a little token officially. I'm not saying a gunja now, officially. To the local government. Then the second man says, Mama, you know, holding all this cash and paying for your goods and services is very dangerous in these times. That really, you need to have a bank account. So she says, so my children, I will think about it and I will talk to my family. That evening, she talks to her husband and children. They think about it and they say, Mama, it's better, at least. Let us be safe, have a bank account. So she goes to the bank one day, and they give her some papers. She can't sign. Uses, isn't it, thumbprint. And after doing all of that, she hands over her cash to them. After handing over the cash, they give her some papers, whether you call it passbook or checkbook or whatever it is, and they give her a piece of plastic. Oh, you have it there. What is that plastic? Do you know? ATM. Thank you. And they tell her, Mama, anytime you need money, don't worry. Just go to that hole in the wall. Put this plastic, do this. Of course, you will get what you need, and you can go and do your business. So she tries to follow the instruction, and she goes outside, and of course, she can't really use this thing. So in the line behind her, there's this lovely young man. He said, my son, can you help me? Mama, no problem. What's the challenge? So she now says, I can't get money from this thing. So he comes, he says, you have to put this thing in the hole in the wall. Then you type in some codes. And lo and behold, money comes out. And what happens? Mama hears ching on her phone. We thank God. So that weekend she goes home. She's at home. And suddenly she's hearing ching, ching, ching. Now, by Monday, she comes back to get her money so that she can, because this is a daily activity. So she follows the procedure. No money comes out. So she goes into the bank and says, my children, I'm trying to get my money that I just put some days ago. So they and next thing they say, Mama, there's no money in your account. Say, how? Say, you've been withdrawing it. Say, how? I've been at home. So, Mama, did you give anybody that code? Say, yes, there was this lovely young man because I couldn't use the machine. They say, we have no longer responsibility. So, ladies and gentlemen, a couple of issues that arise from this story. One, what language does your ATM use? Can you tell me? Do they use any other language? Some. French. Oh. They're using? No, trying to, or they have. Yeah, okay. See, I'm now impressed. I've learned something. But up till recently, your typical ATM spoke 2 languages, and none of them were indigenous. And this assumes that Mama can read in any language, because Mama cannot read. So even if you put it in Edo or Igbira, and she's not going to understand it anyway. So we have to find another way. The second point I want to put out to you is that isn't there an inherent injustice to people like Mama at that level? And the third issue, and the final issue, is that this is about cybersecurity. When you design systems, you must design them inherently for the people that will use them. Cybersecurity starts from design, not from implementation, definitely not from operation. Shall we move on? Please be alert. So, as you can see, cybersecurity, relatively speaking, is a vast field. I'm not going to go into all the details. But it is critical to understand that cybersecurity is not about security. It's not about some people from the SSS with dark goggles, black shoe, suit, tie. No. Cybersecurity is about risk management. And that's one of the problems we have, not just in Nigeria, but around the world. The security community is taking too much leverage. And I speak as somebody who has worked in the security establishment. But I'm not just talking only of Nigeria, across the globe. Because we are leaving behind the risk management component, which is actually more important. Because part of risk management is access control and the security issues. Critical infrastructure comes under that. Security of things, cyber war, technology, law, and justice, and then all the other subcomponents around it. Can we move, sir? Next slide. So this is some of the body of knowledge. At the bottom, you will see the link. You are more than welcome to go and download it. My primary aim to put these things up is to let you know some of this information is out there. If you want to know more, go and read more. So let's move to the next one. So as I mentioned earlier, cybersecurity itself is a risk management proposition. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is actually an economic proposition. This is part of the mindset change we need to have. Today in Nigeria, everything cybersecurity is coordinated by one place, Office of National Security Advisor. It is a risk in of itself. It has proven to be a single point of failure. And that's why we are having many of these issues of things not moving as they should. Not because it's a bad place. I used to work there. I've worked for 4 NSAs. But the mindset of the national security establishment, not just the NSA, but people in security, they are black holes. They take information. They don't give. That is their training. That is their orientation. That is their disposition. That is why you pay them, not to be blabbing. But cybersecurity is about sharing. It's not about silos of information. You have to have a public face. That is why when we talk about NIDA, I designed and implemented the CERT. And that extra R is very important because the extra R is about readiness. You have to be ready. What are you ready for? You don't know, but you know you must be ready. Because whatever it is you don't know is going to come and bite you. Now, many times I see people mixing cybercrime, cybersecurity. A crime, first of all, is something that has to be articulated on a piece of paper called a law, an act, a legislation. And that paper must say, if you do this, it is wrong. And these are the consequences, the penalty for it. And that is why there are things that happen online that we may find morally reprehensible. But the truth of the matter is that if there's no law that says it is illegal, it's not illegal. And that is part of the reason the global community is trying to harmonize their laws and insights. But having said that, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, sometimes, because legislation takes forever, it is more important today for legislation to empower somebody, a regulator. Create a new regulator if you like. Empower a body, because that body can adjust and change. Because as I just said, you have to deal with what you don't know is coming. So regulations and policies must be flexible, must be ready to change very quickly. When I started out in technology, who knew anything about Uber, IoT? If you had told me these things are coming, I'd say, what have you been smoking? And then, as one of my former bosses said, national security is actually the aggregation of all our security interests. National security is about women, it's about health security, it's about food security. It's not just about Boko Haram. And as a very good friend in Singapore once told me, Barry Green, cyber criminals operate at the speed of light. Unfortunately, law enforcement has to operate at the speed of law. And any one of us that has had to have a case in court, I think will understand how fast law moves. Hello, I really need the operator to focus on me. Maybe if I do my hand like this, so that I don't keep saying next, next. Because if I were in the audience, I would get irritated with myself. Okay, thank you. So when we talk of cyber war, please understand, ladies and gentlemen, it's the ability of one party to disrupt the operations of another. It is actually an exploit in its essence. And why this is important is because those concepts get you to the point where you realize that it is asymmetric. The small guy In fact, so small that it is one person in his bedroom can take down the infrastructure, for example, military communications. Boom. That's asymmetric. And we have some examples here. Some years ago, a group of teenagers actually hacked 2 US satellites. I'm not talking about the Nigerian satellite, though. US satellites. You have a situation some years ago where Iran was able to take down its $4.5 million US drone, like the one that killed the Iranian general, although that one is about $6 million. But let's understand the money here. You have a drone flying, $4.5 million. You took it down. How did you take it down? You used software. What software did you use? $26 software. In fact, it's shareware. For those who know what shareware is try before you buy. $26 took down an infrastructure or a mechanism of 4.5. And as a very famous gentleman, Sheikh Zaki Yamani, of the former oil minister of Saudi Arabia, said, the Stone Age did not end because of lack of stone. We heard something this morning about Aso Rock. The rock is still there, but we have left the Stone Age. Ladies and gentlemen, the oil age will not end because of lack of oil. And I think we are all living witness that if we are not careful in this country, we may start drinking our own oil. So, in terms of actual wars, no, I've moved on from this. Thank you. 2007, Estonia was the first country that experienced a cyber war. For 3 weeks, whoever was hacking them, allegedly Russia, they couldn't access their financial system. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine if I take down the Central Bank Clearinghouse today. You here cannot access your own money in your own account. You can't withdraw, you can't transfer, you can't even deposit. Imagine that in Lagos for 2 hours. Okay, 2 days. 2 weeks. There'll be riot in the streets. You will bring down this country. In 2008, before the Russians attacked Georgia, what did they do? They caused a cyber blackout. Similarly, when America went into Iraq for the first time, they got the codes from France, who supplied the radar and anti-missile equipment to Iraq, and they switched off the system remotely. So the American aircraft and missiles and soldiers, they were blind. They couldn't even see them coming. How much more to launch missiles against them? Even relatively recently, in 2014, Russia used the same tactic before it entered and took Crimea, which is in the Ukraine. So these things are real. In fact, even the Pentagon in the USA, when it was targeting the leadership of ISIS, they used cyber attacks against them. And indeed, there was a more recent in 2019 on the 6th of May. Israel actually physically bombed a target in the Gaza Strip, and their allegation was that that was the Palestinian hub for their cyber activities. And that is actually the first example or evidence where, because of a cyber activity, somebody took a physical route to destroy. So, let's look at some of the definitions. Cyber stability, really, it's about safety. It's not about stagnation. Stability is not stagnation in this case. Stability is much more about you can go and use a service and be assured that the service will do what it's supposed to do when it's supposed to do it. And a norm really is a guide to control and regulate proper and acceptable behavior. All of us who may be parents know that we have to set norms for our children. Our parents set norms for us. Many of us, maybe when we are smaller, If you cross the norm, Mama will take that shoe and throw it on your head. That's because there's acceptable behavior. There's a way you talk to your elders. So, what has been happening? The UN is on the ball here. They are developing some processes, and these processes basically are rooted in international law. There are things the nation state cannot do or should not do. And of course, there are things it is allowed to do. For those who are interested in international law as it relates to cyberspace, cybersecurity, cyber warfare, and the like, I strongly recommend you try to read the Tallinn Manual. Right now, I have version 2.0. It's a very thick book. It's not international law per se, but what has happened is that about 20 or 30 international cybersecurity legal people have come together and said, these are the things that need to be in international law. And because of their credibility, the system is moving in that direction. Okay. So the UN has articulated some of the norms. We'll take one as an example a bit later. There are about 11 of them. I hope the video will work. Do we have audio? Nope, it didn't work. Okay. There's a small video on the presentation. No, gentlemen, let's move on. Okay. So, the UN has about 4 initiatives. Ladies and gentlemen, why they have 4, I don't know. Because to me, it's too many to be running relatively parallel. But what is important is that it has these initiatives, and Nigeria, you and I, need to be part of it. The UN Secretary General's high-level panel on digital, what was it? Digital cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, this panel met last year, and they submitted their report in December. It's done. Where were you? Where was I? Where was Nigeria? In fact, in early December in New York, I had to ask our Consul General or Deputy Consul General. Because remember, Nigeria is the chair of what in the UN? UNGA. Thank you. And this is the Secretary General's panel that the UNGA has approved. We know they're there. So I asked, Ogbeni, what happened now? He says, sir, you know we send this thing to Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, our organs in Abuja. But unfortunately, this thing has to go to NSA. That's the point of coordination, and it never comes back. This goes back to something I was mentioning earlier, ladies and gentlemen. These processes at the UN, security, cybersecurity, they are not security in that sense. They are diplomatic issues. They are not even technology issues. But what is crucial here is that it is the combination of your foreign affairs, your national security, and your technology people. So we have a say, NCS, CPRN, whomever we are, as professionals, we do have a say. But the lead needs to be your diplomats. Diplomats are not technology people, so they need to rely on us for this input. I can tell you that from the work I did at the Global Commission, we were started out as 28 commissioners. We ended up as 26. A lot of our work has gone into this UN Secretary General's high-level panel. So it's not as if Nigeria totally had zero, but it's zero in effect because definitely it's not an official input. It is just me, from my perspective, as I. And that's not good enough. And that's one of the messages I want us to continue to pass to those in politics and in government. Nigeria needs to get its act together. Why? Because if the UN sets a norm to do A, ladies and gentlemen, you go do that A, whether you like it or not. So you better make sure. For example, those of you in the banking sector, there's something called PCI DSS. Tell me you won't adhere to it now. That is the standard that is set if you want to use cards. And it's very simple. Don't adhere to the standard as a bank. Your card will not be accepted. They don't tell you, you are free to ignore it. If you cannot use a card today, for example, if you cannot use UBA card today, how many of us will bank in UBA? Because we need the card for our transactions. That is the reality of these norms. But more importantly, what is going on now, those processes are being established. Those discussions are happening. The conversations are ongoing. The standards are now becoming solidified. The norms are being set. We just spoke about the underserved, the unserved, the unborn, the unconnected. Whatever it is we set now, then go live with them. Your children, my grandchildren, your grandchildren. And now you're going to tell us that, or are you going to tell them, we were there, but we didn't participate in the decisions. It's done. There's another process called the UNGGE. And again, these are grammar, group of governmental experts. Remember, in the UN, you and I cannot make an input. It is our government as a member that makes the input. But if the government doesn't make the input, no input is made. So, UNGG is 25 countries. Is Nigeria one of the 25? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to ask you because we'll be embarrassed. But the simple answer is no. We're not part of the 25. If you are going to choose 25 countries in this nation, 25 nations in this globe, in this world, that would represent, for example, your regions, your continents, are you trying to tell me that in Africa, Nigeria will not be one of those selected? So, sorry. There's also another process called the UN OEWG. Is Nigeria there? Well, technically, yes, but no. Because first of all, it's not on the core committee. And the young man they sent to the meeting, because I was in the meeting, that was why I said I was in New York in December, 2nd to 4th of December. He's a nice young man, but he doesn't have the authority, the gravitas, he doesn't have the means to even speak, just take notes, go and report back to his organ. Meanwhile, sitting in that hall with us, 100 and something of us, are cyber ambassadors of various countries, Netherlands, Singapore, you name it. Full ambassadorial status. If all these European, Western, China, Russia feel it is important to have somebody of an ambassadorial status speaking on their behalf on these processes, maybe we should wonder, maybe this is actually a bit important and we should be there. So let's give ourselves weak. Let's not say none, although some of us would say none. Then the third group is the OECE. My time is up, 5 minutes. I would do my best. So I have to rush. Let's go to the next slide. So you can look at this later, the UNGG versus the OEWG process. Can we move on? One of the critical things I just want to mention, move on. One of the critical things I want to mention are confidence building measures, CBMs. How do we build confidence building measures? And this is something, actually, the Presidential Committee on Broadband is, in fact, I took an excuse from the chairman to come here, okay? But one of the things we are trying to look at is we need to have something like you have in the banking sector, a bankers committee. You need to have a committee of the chief executives of broadband, but you need to have some kind of committee of the chief executives of those who provide cybersecurity services. Part of it needs to also be civil society, the professional groups. There is a cyber crime advisory council, but if you look at the list of participants, I think out of 30 members, one is not a government security official. Moving on. This slide, all I wanted to show here was I wanted to take an example of Norm 1 from the United Nations norms on interstate cooperation and security. And so for each of the norms, I would like us, if you are interested, to interrogate them and ask yourself, what are the tactics we are deploying here? What is my country or region doing on this norm? Remember, they are UN norms. Once the UN has passed it, it is global. It's not take it or leave it, it's take it or take it. What tools? How is my country doing it? So what are we doing? How are we doing it? And of course, the procedures. Why is my country doing what it's doing? And we could go further and further, but I'm afraid, let's move on. So very quickly, let's look at ourselves in Africa. Well, at least in November, the African Union started the AU Cybersecurity Experts Group. I'm happy to say I'm the pioneer chairman. I don't know how well we'll do. But as the pioneer chairman, I will crave and beg you for assistance. If you have ideas and suggestions on cybersecurity issues in Africa that we need to share with African heads of state, my email is at the end. Feel free. But please, don't tell me about your product or service. We're not going into that level. It's just at the broad level. What does the country need to do? When we come to West Africa, I have questions. I don't think we really have any good institutional mechanism. Remember, this West Africa, this ECOWAS, shey na dem be the region where start ECO. What are the cybersecurity implications of a new currency? Are we thinking about it? And then, of course, we come to our fatherland, Nigeria, Cybercrime Advisory Council. Have they been meeting? I don't know if I doubt there are any members here, but I think, have many of you even heard of it? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So, in the Global Commission, this is what we've been working on. This is our framework. Basically, we talk about international law, technical standards, principles, capacity building. Anything you want to do, if you don't do capacity building, it's going nowhere. Confidence building, as I just mentioned. Remember, during the nuclear age, when they had confidence building measures, one of the confidence building was simply to have a telephone, a red phone, that if the president of America needed to talk to the president of Russia, he can pick the phone, the man will pick it directly. That is it. We're not talking about sophisticated, complex. It's about, can I know what your next move will be? Can I trust that what you say is what is going to happen? Let's move to the next slide.